It all started in Twin Town, a seemingly idyllic suburb on the outskirts of the city. I had just moved into my new house on the quiet, tree-lined street, eager to start fresh after a messy divorce. But little did I know, Twin Town had a dark secret lurking beneath its picturesque facade. It began with the strange doppelgangers, people who looked exactly like their neighbors, but with an unsettling coldness in their eyes. They would pass by me on the street, giving me a shiver down my spine. I brushed it off as a strange coincidence, until I saw my own doppelganger staring back at me from across the street. I quickly turned away, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. But the strange occurrences didn't stop there. Residents of Twin Town started disappearing without a trace. At first, it was just a few people, but as the days went by, more and more people were reported missing. The police were baffled, unable to find any leads or clues. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a knock on my door. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, her eyes wide with fear. She told me that her husband had disappeared, and she feared for her safety. She begged me to let her stay with me until the police found him. I couldn't turn her away, so I let her in. That night, as I lay awake, I heard strange noises coming from the living room. I cautiously got out of bed and crept towards the source of the noise. To my horror, I saw Mrs. Jenkins standing in front of the mirror, her reflection moving independently from her. She turned to me with a sinister grin and said, "You're next." I ran back to my room and locked the door, not daring to sleep a wink for the rest of the night. The next morning, Mrs. Jenkins was gone, along with all her belongings. It was as if she had never been there. I knew I had to get to the bottom of these strange occurrences in Twin Town. I started doing some research and discovered that the town was built on top of an ancient burial ground. Legend has it that the spirits of the dead were not at rest and would haunt anyone who disturbed their resting place. I also learned that Twin Town was actually named after another town, located just a few miles away. The two towns used to be connected, but a strange force had cut them off from each other. The people of Twin Town had tried to erase the memory of the other town, but it seemed that the spirits were trying to reclaim their land. Determined to put an end to the terror in Twin Town, I drove to the other town. As soon as I entered, I felt a sense of unease wash over me. The streets were deserted, and the buildings were crumbling. It was as if time had stood still. I made my way to the town's abandoned cemetery and found a crypt that seemed to be the source of the dark energy. I opened the crypt and was met with a sinister sight. Inside were dozens of doppelgangers, all staring at me with cold, lifeless eyes. I realized that the people of Twin Town were not being killed. They were being replaced by these doppelgangers. And if I didn't put an end to it, I would be next. With trembling hands, I lit a match and threw it into the crypt, watching as the flames engulfed the doppelgangers. As the flames died down, I could feel the dark energy dissipate. The two towns were reunited, and the spirits were finally at rest. Twin Town would no longer be plagued by the sinister shadow that had been lurking within its borders. But even now, as I sit in my new home, I can't help but feel a sense of unease. I know that the spirits are at peace, but I can't shake the feeling that they are still watching, waiting for their next victim. And in Twin Town, you can never be sure who is real and who is just a sinister shadow.